Here we go. So this is another in my continuing series of calamitous people, sort of. But this one's actually partially on me. You know, I've owned this car for years, and there's just been one little thing about it that bugged me for a long time now, and that is that the light in the trunk didn't work. And it's not that big a deal most of the time, but I mean, good grief, it's supposed to work, so why doesn't it? So I decided to investigate. So what I discovered on this thing, on the light in the trunk, so what I discovered was that little light right there wasn't working. So I popped it off. I took the cover off and discovered that the wires were disconnected to it. It was unhooked. Well, so I got to thinking on that. Well, why would they be unhooked? Maybe there's a problem with it. Maybe there's an issue with the switch, and I don't see a switch anywhere that turns it off and on. So it's magic, I guess. But anyway, how does it know to turn off at the proper time? So I'm thinking, okay, if it stays on all the time, it'll run the battery down, and we don't want that. So I thought, well, the way to test it is I'll just video it. So I whipped out my cell phone and put it in the trunk, pointed it at the light, and gently closed the trunk, and popped it back open and had a look at it, and sure enough, the light turned off as it should. So it's operating properly. So, but that led me to an interesting story from I was telling my brother-in-law Mark Coleman about me doing that, and he was talking about a friend of his that got trapped in his trunk. Well, nowadays you have an emergency release handle, which is supposed to be brightly colored. It's supposed to be easy to see, and it's also supposed to be made of glow-in-the-dark material, so that you always have an emergency escape from your trunk. Apparently there was an issue with children being trapped in the trunk of cars and suffocating, and I don't know, I don't personally know of that happening, but I think that's what led to the safety regulations that dictated that all cars have that form of a release, and a glow-in-the-dark, nonetheless, a glow-in-the-dark release, so that if you're trapped in a trunk like that, you can get out. So, and of course, I know in all the movies they always show the bad guys throwing somebody in the trunk of the car, of course, as like in the movie Hangover. I guess it was Hangover 2, or well, anyway, in Hangover, the Kim was trapped in the trunk of the Mercedes and couldn't get out. Well, anyway, so to prevent that, there's now new federal regulations. So I was telling my brother-in-law Mark about my adventures with the light in my trunk, and it reminded him about what happened to his co-worker Leonard. Several years ago, he apparently didn't know about these emergency latches that are in cars, so he bought a Cadillac, and this new Cadillac had a new feature for Leonard. It had the automatic closing mechanism on the trunk, so that you don't have to slam your trunk. You just lightly close it, and then it pulls the latch locked down snug on the trunk. And so Leonard was wondering the same thing. He was like, well, you know, how does that work? How does that mechanism know? And, you know, and when does that light go off? What, you know, he was doing the same thing I was doing. He was trying to close the trunk lid as much as he could and see inside, you know, to see if the light was still on. It's kind of like the light in the refrigerator, you know, same kind of a deal. You know, when does the light in the refrigerator come on and go off? But anyway, so Leonard crawls in the trunk. He's going to check it out. He's going to see at what point that light gets triggered to go off. So he climbs in the trunk at his house, you know, in his garage, and he climbs in the trunk and he eases the lid down, and he's trying to see when does the light go off. Well, sure enough, he got a little bit too close to the latch, and the automatic mechanism engaged, and it pulls the trunk lid closed on him, and he's trapped inside. And his cell phone and keys are both out in the garage, you know, sitting there on the shelf in the garage, and he's trapped. And so the poor guy spent about 2 hours trapped in the trunk of his own car until his sons came home later in the day and let him out.